His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State, is our guest this morning, and he's right here in our studios. He's also the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. Your Excellency, you're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, my sister, and good morning to viewers.
Good morning. Really challenging times that we're in. And you have been pretty vocal in the last couple of weeks or so, or more, especially with regards to security. A number of, all the reports that we have played, even though we wanted to start with something else, we had planned to start with something else, but security remains pressing. And a lot of the videos where you have appeared in recent times, in almost every situation, you have been speaking on security. This morning, we understand that there will be a NEC meeting, the National Economic Council meeting, where the governors will be attending. And it will seem that somehow an agenda has already been set. They expect that governors will be reaching some consensus on state policing. Do you think eventually that is where everyone is headed?
Yeah, I think the security situation, right now is such that we need state police. We need state police, it's going to address a lot of concerns because with state police, you are actually engaging people that understand the terrain, that understand the land. And it's going to answer to a lot of, banditry and self-styled, security people that pretend to protect, their regions. I think that would be the answer. And I suggest strongly that federal government should, give into this.
Well, the Southeast Governors Forum, of which you're the chairman, recently came out to adopt some sort of policing, which they have named Ebubeago. You were here on our station to shed a little more light on Ebubeago, and there have been questions as to how that's going to work. What exactly is currently deficient in the arrangements that we have that you think that state policing will cure?
You see, when people ask us, we, Ebubeago, we vigilante, we they carry gun and so on and so forth, I refer them to the Constitution, the constitutional provision. So with state police, all those questions, are embedded there. They will carry arms, they will have the powers of arrest, they will have the powers, to exercise full authority within the concept of, the law. So I think that is the missing gap, and the state police will solve that problem.
Won't it be coming too late? Considering the fact that now, when we look at the nature of attacks in the Southeast, and they're varied, there's a challenge of herdsmen invading communities. There's intercommunal challenges, communities fighting themselves over land or whatever the issue might be. There's also secessionist agitations also bedeviling the Southeast. How do you think that state police, if introduced today, is going to cure any of these evils?
Well, this is what the people, that's what they need, and they understand why they need it. Like I said, within the law, where these people will be allowed to carry arms, where these people are going to be people-oriented, they will come from the people, they will come from the communities. I think it's going to cure a lot of this agitation because, if we allow all these people calling for secession, if we continue to allow it to thrive, it will result to self-help, and that will not be good for the country.
Well, it would seem that self-help is already at hand, so to speak. We heard about the Eastern Security Network. Even though they have, they say they're protecting, the Southeast, it's some sort of self-help because the state governors do not seem to approve of that. You have called them illegal before now. Has there been any attempt to see if there could be some reconciliation or some staying on the same page as to the end game, which is supposed to be the security of lives of people and property as well, in terms of what they are doing, especially since they're also Southeasterners? One would think that everybody will be interested in the security of lives and property in that region. Has there been any meeting of the sort behind the scenes?
Well, I have a number of times refrained myself from talking about IPOB or ESN. But just because you've constantly been mentioning it, let me throw a little bit light to that. In as much as IPOB and ESN is, to a number of people, is like a necessity due to insecurity in Southeast. And they have their demands, they have their agitations, they have what, according to them, making them angry. But let me tell you the truth of what is happening. There are bandits everywhere. There are criminals everywhere. There are cultists everywhere. So what happens now is that criminals who may not necessarily be members of IPOB and the ESN, we go and commit crime. And they needed a name. So it's safer for them to say, oh, we are members of ESN. We are members of IPOB. So that the, in quote, the persecution of IPOB and ESN by the federal government, we cover them. That is what is happening in Southeast. Because the IPOB people and the ESN have a number of times come out to say, look, we are not, into terrorism. We are not into violence. We're simply agitating. And these people that are burning police stations, these people that are killing, they are not our members. And so how do you reconcile the two? And that's the kind of self-help, that is unfolding, because somebody is killed, he cannot defend themselves, and then somebody comes out to say, oh, we're going to defend you. And then the person tends to have confidence in that person, even though it's illegal. But he wants life to be sustained.
It's a rather complex situation, but what you have explained now, it would seem, supports what IPOB is saying, that they have no hand in some of what has happened in the South, especially with attacks on police formations or, and police infrastructure as well. Yeah. Because it would seem that it is other people who are doing this in their name. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's what they claim. That's what they claim. They claim that, look, we are not into violence, we are not into terrorism, that people do this thing in their names. And we say, look, banditry is banditry, criminality is criminality. It doesn't matter the name they come with. And so we confront that, and that is our position.
But looking at just how, vulnerable police, the entity of, policing is now in the Southeast, there have been quite a number of attacks on policemen who have lost their lives, sadly. Also, situations that could degenerate into something else in the Southeast, especially where prison inmates are set free. In Imo State, over 1,800 of them were set free in one fell swoop. And that did not stop subsequent attacks in Abia, in other parts of the Southeast, as we saw, where the same style, it would seem, freeing people who were in cells and also burning down infrastructure, police infrastructure has also happened. It would seem, I don't know if this is true, you can tell us if it is, that there is some resentment against the authorities. Is that what is being reflected? Can we safely assume that that's what is being reflected in the attacks that we've seen on police formations?
There is an ongoing madness all over the country right now. Where people think that they come out and then do whatever thing they like to do. I will not call it, hunger or, of such, But I listened to one former DIG, I think he was here in your studio. He was talking about the reasons for, burning down police stations and then, killing policemen. And he was saying, look, they're, supposedly, looking for Fulani police people to kill, looking for arms. I will believe that if they are looking for, a Fulani policemen to kill, they have not killed them. They have killed our own people, which goes to say that he was very wrong, in what he's saying. This is pure criminality, because if you're looking for arms, why are you burning down police station? If you're looking for arms, why are you killing people? 95% of those that have been killed are Southeast people, these police people. And this is one area I have said that the leaders of Southeast must rise up to speak against. Because if you keep quiet and you think that police people are being attacked, it's a monster that we must not allow to arise in Southeast. When they finish with that, they'll start going to stakeholders to kill them. And this is the truth.
That's another angle. So what I'm saying is that it would seem that there is a resentment against the authorities. And by authorities, I don't even mean federal authorities. I mean even the authorities in the Southeast. Is that the reality?
It's not a resentment against it. This is pure criminality. I give you an example. In one of my local government area, where they attacked a police station and killed policemen and burned down police station, they took the arms. And the next day, there are people that are Bonyans, and the next day they went to rob and kill somebody. And the police demobilized them, arrested 3 of them, and recovered some of the arms they took from the police. So it's pure criminality. Just that people find it is like, the high level of insecurity and confusion. So it's a time for criminals to come out and exercise their freedom.
Your Excellency, I don't know if you're aware that, that story was reported on the front pages of some of the papers, where there was an open threat from IPOB, or is it ESN now, daring people to join Ebubeagụ and lose their lives. Did you see that story?
That wasn't the correct quotation. What they said that Ebubeagụ, that anybody who is joining Ebubeagụ to, spy on, on ESN or IPOB, will lose, his or her life, that threat was very much uncalled for, and, even though it was misquoted, but that's what they said, But we have no reason to spy, on them. We're there to protect the lives of our people and our properties, so we have no reason to spy on them. Why should we spy on them where they are?
The point I'm trying to make is that there have been criticisms that part of the reason why Ebubeagụ was formed is for the self-preservation of the governors of the Southeast. What do you make of that particular criticism?
There's nothing like self-preservation. You see, what people did not understand is that we've always, we've had this security, arrangement in our states. We have laws backing them. And the South has been saying, okay, we want a joint corporation. We want a name, a common name that all the 5 Southeast states will have to bear. And that's what we concluded a few days back. And we said, look, all the security outfits in Southeast in the various states should now answer Ebubeagụ. And then we are going to amend our various laws on areas of cooperation. And then our central, intelligence command that is going to be at Enugu. And that is just what it is.
If you say so. I'm sure that, there certainly will be more questions on that from my colleagues. Let me quickly flip this to Lagos now, so that we can thoroughly exhaust security matters before we now move on to other matters such as Jusun strike and whether or not even the governors have said they're going to implement financial autonomy and have set a date for it or a time frame for it. What has taken them so long? Let's quickly flip this to Lagos now. Gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning, Your Excellency. We had the security operative, a former SSS operative here on the show some time ago, and he did say that governors actually get intel about some of these things before they happen. So is that the case? And if that is the case, then does it mean that governors actually know what really, to a very large extent, what really is going on, but they're not leveling up with Nigerians?
Well, since he's a former person, I will not join issues with him. But I think, in this country, more intel is needed, from the SSS to forestall some of these things. I won't be here to demarcate any security outfit, but there is no governor who will have an advance information on any of these happenings that will not act. After all, most of the governors don't sleep now. When you wake up and then the CP reports that, the night was relatively safe, you kneel down and then thank God. So there is no governor that is not very sensitive to the happenings, in the state now.
Well, Your Excellency, one of the things that, has agitated a number of people, myself definitely inclusive, is the primary responsibility of the police. The Police Act says clearly that the primary function of the police is to prevent and detect crime. But it would seem like we concentrate on fighting the crime as opposed to preventing it. Since the state governors are calling for state police, how do you think we can change the trajectory to ensure that this is done as opposed to spending money to fight rather than prevent?
Yeah, thank you very much. You've touched on one very sensitive area, and that is, preventive of, crimes. And I think that the level of crimes in the country is as a result of unpatriotic act, of a lot of us. We leaders, we come out, television, and then we speak, indict other regions, we speak against other regions, we pick on, on the leader of the country, and then castigate the leader of the country and all kinds of stuff, There's no patriotism at all. And so the way to prevent this thing is that if you are making, unsubstantiated, statements in the social media, the police, the SSS, you should be invited to explain. And this is no politics. Because the country cannot fold their hands and allow people to plunge, the country into another war. This is very important. And this is one area, because I was told that one of the world wars started with a family quarrel. And so if you are making a statement in social media and they call it freedom of speech, you must come to the law to substantiate it. What I have back in the state now, the communal crisis would have stopped. But for the politicians who are making unguarded accusations and statements in social media, and then people outside the state who darken counsel without knowledge, we just cash on that, and the emotion will rise, and the problem will continue. So this is the problem. And when we talk about police, preventing and doing this and that, you see, security is everybody's problem. People move up and down with police, going to host events, host this, and then talk in such a manner that is dividing this country. It should not be allowed to be so. Never in the history of this country have we been so divided because of politics, because people want power by all means. So preventing crime is the duty of everybody. And even if you multiply police by 1,000 in this country and you don't have the cooperation of the people, it is very difficult.
Your Excellency, perhaps that also kind of suggests that there is a different law for Nigerians and another one entirely for politicians. Because if an ordinary civilian, for instance, would make such inflammatory, comments, most certainly the person would have been picked up. And this same thing that you have said has been said by so many other politicians and political leaders. So in that light, what kind of conversation should we be having with the political class to forestall these kind of activities?
The truth is that, we, the leaders of this country, we have to truly, have the fear of God. What we present in the public is different from our hearts, is different from what happens in realities, And I wouldn't, advocate, for freedom of speech for somebody in the name of politics to plunge the country into crisis. I think there is a need for the leaders, politicians, to weigh their words and be able to defend whatever accusation or whatever information they are dishing to the public. This is very important. An American says that my conscience, that my patriotism is not to my conscience, nor to my president, nor to my, state, but it's to my country. Until we leaders of this country begin to have, patriotism, that is, rooted to the existence of this country and to our children, and to the unborn children of this nation, that is where we begin to say we have a country. In this country now, we make laws that will suit our tenor, but that is very unpatriotic. So patriotism is very much needed. And I think that there should be a common denominator for everyone making statement in public, that you should be able to defend it. And we should also be warned as politicians that if Mr. President goes all out to do this, they will say, oh, this is anarchy, so and so forth, you know. So the press should also be able to put a control in this direction.
Well, definitely the press does the best it can, but you mentioned social media, and that's another area which the press definitely doesn't have control over. But back to what state executives are doing. Over time, we have seen governors come up with stance and positions regarding how they're tackling insecurity in their state. Recall the Kaduna State governor, for example, says no negotiations with bandits or kidnappers whatsoever. You have the Zamfara State governor saying, well, there's room for dialogue. At least let's toe the line of dialogue just to ensure that these things are sorted with. And just recently, the governor of Kaduna State says that all governors agree that bandits should be killed. That's what he said. We've heard statements from the NGF and others. I just wonder, for you specifically, what is your stance in handling the issues of, do I call it herdsmen, killer herdsmen, or banditry or gunmen that are causing mayhem in the state? What is the kind of directive you give to security agencies?
What I think is that we've gotten to a point in this country where we needed to review, our situation. And it's not a question of negotiating with bandits or not negotiating with bandits. These bandits are bad people, but the good people also know them. And so we can use, in quotes, the good people to find out. For example, a governor says, look, the demands of IPOB, has some merits. And I believe that some of their demands, have merits, So what is the matter? We can select people, for example, in Southeast, who are the leaders of the IPOB, for example, we are dealing with. Because sometimes, people are fighting for their own self-interest, and they put in quote the interest of the larger society. That's what they're fighting. But if we say, okay, these are your demands, you can't be more Catholic than Pope. We will address the demands. And then you go to the issue of Boko Haram, for example. Of late I read, it may be right or wrong, people sponsoring them and so forth and so on, You can use people that, are also in the know of them and to say, okay, what do you want? I think that, as citizens of Nigeria, we should give them that last opportunity before the issue of the use of force to flush them we can. Because criminality will always be there. But we have to devise a means. And my suggestion is that there should be a kind of, leaders, consensus arrangement whereby you can get, the religious leaders, maybe one from each state or two from each state, and get some, one traditional rulers, and then the former heads of states and so forth, and let them sit down and say, look, can we go around the country? Can we meet some of these people? Can we discuss? Because this thing is getting out of hand. And everyone that is a leader in this country should be concerned, because every day we wake up to, the realities of the time. And this should not be. We have to discuss, we have to, I won't call it negotiate, because if you are fighting for the people, you don't shave a man's head in his absence. Let the people tell you how we want to be fought for. This is very important. This is what I'm recommending.
All right, Your Excellency, we'll go to break, but we'll come back and then take on some other perspectives in just a moment. Please stay with us.
His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State and Chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum, is still with us in the studio. And we're about to enter another topic now, which is judicial, autonomy for judicial workers. In the last 2 going to 3 weeks now, judicial workers have been on strike, asking for financial autonomy from the state government across the Federation, and it's been a thorny issue. Your Excellency, how did you receive news of the strike, this eventual strike that happened? And how has the conversation been going in your state about implementing financial autonomy according to the Constitution?
Well, honestly, I'm a bit confused about what is going on in the country. It's not per se going on in my state. I think it's been negotiated, generally at the center. But I don't know whether we should call what is going on financial autonomy or increased in the funding of the judiciary. That is what is confusing me. Because in my state, I think I have what I can call financial autonomy in the sense that, the money that is due according to the budget and according to the resources available, is, sent to the judiciary. They pay their salary. They do their projects. They take care of, their welfare, according to the budget. So, but definitely, I cannot say it is adequate. So that's why I'm confused whether what we are talking about is financial autonomy or increased in the funding of the judiciary. I'm using my state as an example. The same thing with the House of Assembly. But definitely it will not be enough because it has never been enough. So if I understand what is going on, if what I've defined is not financial autonomy, because largely what is being discussed is, increase in funding and how it is being funded. That is what, is being discussed.
Well, that's not what we have heard. What we have heard is that in some states, yes, there has been some partial compliance with what the judiciary workers are demanding or workers in the judiciary are demanding. They are asking that all monies, as stipulated in the Constitution, be given to the head of the judiciary in their states. According to a number of them, that the monies from the internally generated revenue of the states are being given to them as and when due. However, the monies that come directly from the federal government that's supposed to get to the judiciary in the different states are not being given to them. In fact, very few states are in full, if any at all, are in full compliance of the judicial autonomy as stipulated by the Constitution. I'll ask you a very simple question, Your Excellency. Are you still involved in any activities, say buying of cars, building of houses for judges? Is the executive arm of government in your state still directly responsible for that?
That is not, if what I've defined as what is going on in my state is not financial autonomy, I needed to be corrected, For example, the House of Assembly, this is the amount of money they have voted to buy cars. We send it to them. They buy their cars. This is the amount of money for their salaries. We send it to them. The constituency project, it's a constitutional matter. They identify the projects, the executive, execute the project. But the contracts, as per, their offices, their residents, they get the money. They award it, by themselves. We also have direct labor law, which they also comply to. The same thing with the judiciary. So if, for example, if a judge is to be made now, and it was not envisaged that a judge would be made in this fiscal year, the chief judge would write to say, look, we need a residency for the judge, we need a vehicle for the judge. That's incidental. And then the chief executive has to now give them money, to do all those. So I think this is financial autonomy.
Okay. Well, I'm still a little lost because you didn't quite answer directly.
No, I've answered it.
Whether you're still involved directly.
No, they pay for their cars.
In building or buying vehicles for members of the judiciary in your state. In some states, they say, yes, the judiciary pays the salaries of its workers. But when it comes to things like contracts, things that involve contracts, the executive is still very heavily involved in the matter. Is that the situation in your state?
No. the judiciary have built a number of projects.
Are they involved in building their own courts, for instance?
Yes, yeah. They are the ones that build their courts. I don't build the courts.
Have you, since you say you're not very certain or clear, have you had conversations with your colleagues as to what the situation is, you know, across their own states to see whether, well, this is not exactly what obtains in my state, so maybe they're just on strike in my state as a result, you know, in solidarity with other workers who haven't quite gotten full financial autonomy?
That's why I said that I don't know what is being discussed, whether it is increase in funding or it's financial autonomy.
Have you spoken with your colleagues?
Yes and no, you know, but what I'm trying to say is, why should
yes and no, Your Excellency. Why are you hesitant to admit that you've spoken with your colleagues on the matter?
No, look at this, you know. We were so, we rushed into this without, you know, understanding the dynamics, you know. No state is the same, you know. If I'm doing this in my state and it is not what the Constitution says, the Chief Judge should be able to approach me to say, hey, the Constitution says A, B, C, D, you know. And another state, you know, the same. You cannot generalize, you know. There are some states that, that have resources. They have built even personal houses for their judges, you know. Some other states don't have such resources. So you can't have a common denominator.
Your Excellency, the Constitution is not ambiguous.
Yes.
In its statement that the monies due the judiciary should be given directly to the judiciary. What they're asking for is that they be at first-line charge, very much like INEC is at the federal level, or the legislative arm of government is also at the federal level, that whatever monies come directly into the common purse, whatever is due to the judiciary be given to the head. That is unambiguous. As to whether or not the money is enough, or we are not as buoyant as this other state, is inconsequential.
I think that is not the issue. Because this is very simple. Why should a governor go to pay the salary of judicial workers? Why should a judge be knocking at the door of a governor, you know, to get money to travel and so on and so forth? It's very debasing. It's very debasing, you know. That is the truth. The governor is not more important than the judges, not more important than the House of Assembly members, you know. And none of these people, you know, is more important than the common masses. We have to come to that understanding. So I don't see anything wrong in whatever that is, you know, due to the judges, based on the availability of funds, you know, should not be given to them directly.
No, based on what they have written and demanded in the budget as passed into law by the different state houses of assembly. Is that what is being implemented?
It's not attainable. The budget is dynamic. The budget is an estimate. And so you cannot tell me that if, for example, the budget of the House of Assembly is 10 billion, the budget of the judiciary is 5 billion, the budget of the executive is 20 billion, and then if you aggregate it, probably it's come to about 50 billion, you know, so to say. And then you now tell me that if I receive money from Abuja, I should give you a percentage of that 10 billion or a percentage of 20 billion. It's unthinkable. It's not done anyway.
What is unthinkable about it?
Because the amount of money you receive is not in line with the budget. You just receive a fraction of your budget. The budget is an estimate. You know, like in the past few months, my state have been losing money from the FAC. And so what do you do? It's dynamic. It's not fixed. So everybody feels, you know, the impact of the economy.
Is there a way, is there an equitable way to ensure, because these are equal arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, they're equal arms of government before the law.
That's misconception. That's misconception.
It's a misconception?
Yes, there is one government. Okay, it's one government. Recurrent expenditure for the three arms is first line charge. And that's how it should be. Now, I've heard a lot of discussion where they say, okay, there will be a fund allocation committee from the judiciary, from the executive, from the legislature. And then they will now agree on how to redistribute the funds, after maybe the recurrent expenditure. And I asked them, where is the labor in this? Where is the market woman in this? Where is the students? Where are they? Where the common person in the society? No, they should all be brought in. Because what ought to be done is to say, okay, this is the amount of money that is left for projects after recurrent expenditure. And then you now tell the governor, we want this school to be fixed. We want this thing to be done, so that the entire society will know this is what the limitation of the governor. Then they also know that this is what the judiciary, these are the projects the judiciary will build. These are the projects that the House of Assembly will build, so that nobody calls governor. For example, the security insecurity erupted in my state. Where do you have that, in this kind of arrangement? The incidentals that come to, a state, and that must be handled.
Indeed. My colleagues have questions for you, gentlemen.
Well, Your Excellency... okay, go ahead.
If I could just go ahead and sorry. I just want to read out this portion of the law to you, just to get your perspective of it. It's Section 121.3. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. It appears to be the crux of the matter here. I mean, yes, 121 talks about the governor shall cause to be prepared, the budget, and all of those processes. But sub 3 then says, any amount standing to the credit of the judiciary in the consolidated revenue fund of the state shall be paid directly to the heads of the courts concerned. What's your interpretation of this?
As it sounds, as it's read, that's what it is. And that's what we've been talking about, and I support it.
So that means that the budget of the judiciary, as the budget comes to, has to be paid directly to them. It doesn't mean that, well, they have to write to you requesting you approve A, B, C, or D every time they need an item. That's not how this says it should work.
They don't. They don't need to do that. They don't need to apply to me. My House of Assembly, they don't apply to me. When funds, come in, and I don't understand the interpretation they talk about, receiving from IG and not receiving from the Federation account. No, the funds, consolidated revenue, is when you bring all funds coming to the purse of government at any point in time. That is the fund of government. And it is from there that whatever is due to them is paid directly to them.
Your Excellency, if that is what already exists, and the Johnson strike is still on, what then do you make of the comments of the governor of Ekiti State, who is the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, that says that Nigerian governors will start implementing financial autonomy for the judiciary latest by May ending? So what then is to be implemented if there is no issue?
I don't know the states. We are 36 states, and I'm talking about my state. I'm talking about the definition of, that constitutional provision. I don't want to go to the nitty-gritty of responsibilities, where the federal government is paying the judges, and then the governors are expected to buy their vehicles, and this is absurd. And I listened to one son in this kind of conversation, and he dealt with the matter properly, who has which responsibility. And without, going to cause more havoc, But I thought that the governors ought to just have responsibility to their magistrate courts, whereas the high courts, customary court and, the customary, Sharia court, will be handled by the federal government. But I think also to raise this matter, it is also very important that we can further this discussion and find how we can, put this judiciary matter, even within the Federation account, whereby whatever is due to them is agreed upon, you know, and then taken directly from the federation account. And of course, you need to amend the constitution because all funds due to states are given. But, you know, just like, you know, how INEC is being funded, just like how, you know, TED Fund is being funded, we can look at that. But I think in my state, I don't pay the salaries of, you know, these people. The money that is due to them is sent directly to them. But don't forget, the incidentals and you know, incidentals and such that there may be issues that will arise within any arm of the government, which was never envisaged. And then what the head of the court, for example, do, he has to fall back to the executive. You will never have enough, you know, in terms of, you know, what you get. So it's shifting of priorities. And that's why it appears as if, you know, the heads of court, you know, apply to, you know, government. You know, it's not so. For example, if a head of court is getting X naira, you know, as the welfare, and, you know, probably there is a debt, you know, God forbid, and people are going to be coming from other states and so on and so forth. It wasn't envisaged, you know. Definitely, there is one government. You have to fall back on the executive, and the executive has to shift priority to meet the needs because it's also the face of the state.
You're implying then that this implementation that the chairman of the NGF spoke about, Governor Kaide Fahimi of Ekiti State, are you saying that your state is not part of that implementation?
I don't think anything is changing in my state, but I think that largely what is being discussed is increase in funding, you know, of the judiciary and the legislature. That's what, you know, I make out of all these things. Because why would governor want to buy cars for the judges? Why would governor want to, you know, payroll the workers, you know? I think because why I'm confused is that what they're discussing is already happening in so many states, you know, but largely the content of discussion has been a kind of increase in funding. And this increase in funding is what necessitates saying, look, if you come from, you know, Abuja every month, that you now have a joint committee to share allocation. And I'm saying such joint committee must include the labor, must include the pensioners, must include the students, must include the market women, so that the card is all on the table, facing up, you know. Nothing should be hidden.
Your Excellency,
because governors demarket themselves so much by, by not showing up everything, you know, what they're passing through. It is important that they begin to show everything, all cards facing up, so that the society will begin to know their limitations. Right. You know, people, just 2 days ago, a bridge collapsed, you know, built, you know, so many years back. And then if text message started coming everywhere, I should intervene. Where is that going to come from in this kind of arrangement?
Your Excellency, I think the judiciary workers...
No sector.
Right, pardon me. I think they've been quite clear and vehement about what they want. They call it financial autonomy. In fact, the NBA has supported them asking for financial autonomy first. I mean, which can, of course, lead to other things like, you know, increased funding and the rest. But the term they use time and again is financial autonomy for the judiciary. But just to put you on record, just so people can, you know, get the major point, you are saying, in essence, that Ebonyi State has fully implemented financial autonomy for the judiciary as stipulated by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Am I right?
Excellent. Yes, sure. Excellent. Excellent.
So when you said earlier about disbursing funds, that if the judiciary asks for a certain amount and the legislature asks for this amount and the executive has a certain amount, that the judiciary can't get that because of the current situation. So are you saying that there's always going to be a peg to the amount they get from the allocations?
If, for example, I get $1 billion as my consolidated revenue for the month, and, you know, I deal with the first line charge, which is the recurrent expenditure. Of course, nobody gets enough, you know, from the three arms of government. And the next month, I get 800,000, for example. What I do, because largely the executive, you know, they always have the chunk of, you know, the funds. And the chunk of the funds, you know, go to projects. And so what happens is that some projects, you know, we have to stop so as to meet the same amount that I give to them, even though I'm not getting the same amount of money this month, but I have to be committed, to this. But if I have more, for example, I suddenly have 1.5 billion, for example, I have to, find a way to also increase their funding. So what everyone gets is a function of what comes in.
Well, do you, because I mean, if this is the case, why then were the governors not happy with Section 7B of the Executive Order 10 that the President signed, which speaks about the Accountant General of the Federation taking appropriate steps to ensure compliance of that EO 10?
I'm still confused about this, and my position is that every state should grant financial autonomy to judiciary. It is not a question of executive order. It's a question of respect for, every arm of government. Yes, the governor is the head of the government, but there must be mutual respect. Whatever is due to the judiciary, within the limit of what is available, must be given directly to them. And it's as simple as that. There is no ambiguity in that. But how much you get is a function of, how much each arm gets. It's a function of how much comes to the state.
All right, we'll come back to this in just a moment. Please join us again.
We condemn totally the killings of policemen and burning of police stations in Southeast that are not being done by herdsmen. They are done by people across the Southeast, bandits and criminals. And my directive to policemen is that if you see anybody coming to kill you, demobilize the person. That is the rule of engagement. Police people should not fold their hands and be killed. Vehicles burnt, police stations burnt. And I want Southeast leaders to rise up to condemn this. How do we feel if because of the killing and burning of police stations in Southeast, the federal government decides to withdraw all the police people from Southeast? We should rise up to condemn what is evil. And this is very important. Those you claim are protecting us are not protecting us. Let us not create another monster in Southeast. We will all regret it. We will confront any herdsman coming to Ebonyi State with AK-47. I've directed that they should be confronted. If you are coming to Ebonyi State with AK-47, and my directive is just obvious because Mr. President had already directed as such. So if you're a herdsman, you are coming to Ebonyi State with AK-47, you will be confronted with the same measure that you are bringing to Ebonyi State.
All right, welcome back. Your Excellency, let's just at least get this a little clearer. Now, you say it will then depend on what is available to the state. But the thing is, that clause is not included in this executive order. It says, based on the budget of the judiciary, they can deduct it from source and hand to them so that they don't have to rely on any other governor saying, no, this is what we can give you, your budget notwithstanding. That is a difference from deducting from source, from the governor disbursing funds to them. They think those are two different things.
That's very annoying. It's a very annoying Chamberlain in the sense that you can't stay in Abuja and then if, for example, I'm getting a shortfall of funds and you're asking me to pay a percentage of budget. I've told you that budget is a mere estimate. And everybody gets, a percentage of the budget based on the availability of funds. But let me tell you something. At the inception of budget, conception, the head of the judiciary, the head of the executive, the head of court, three of them can sit down and say, look, this year, this is the amount of infrastructure we want to build in the state. This is the amount of, in the judiciary, for example, this is the amount of, infrastructure we want to build in the legislature. The deficiency of infrastructure in the judiciary in Ebonyi State is different from what is in, in Ekiti State. It's different from what is in Lagos State. A time comes where you have built everything you needed to build in terms of infrastructure. At least you would have built up to 90-something%. It's different from young states like Ebonyi State that is just starting. So we continue to have infrastructure deficiency for some years now. Now, if three of you are committed to this project, and of course the governor will be saying, I want to do this road, I want to do this education, I want to do this health. Everybody will come to agreement. This is the amount that is voted for all these things. And then the funds, start coming. It's an expectation, And of course, my first expectation of the righteous will not be cut short. So we believe that these funds will come as budgeted. But if they don't fail to come as budgeted, then we have to prioritize some of the projects. And so it's an agreement that what you're getting, we do A, B, C, D. These ones could be pushed over to the next year. That is understanding. And it's different from state to state. The needs are different from state to state. And that is my position.
Well, I don't know, we don't know what the understanding of Nigerians will be, from what you have been able to explain. But let us see if they will be able to, be on the same page with the explanation that you have given this morning. Your Excellency, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. We're totally out of time. There are lots of other issues that I would like to take up with you, such as the economy. You have made reference to a shortfall in your revenues, and it would have been interesting to see, where you also stand, I don't know, on the 60 billion naira controversy, the plan of the CBN to start recovering monies from state governors as a result of that statement, the budget support that was given in the past. But sadly, we're out of time. Hopefully,
but those two statements are very unfortunate and very unpatriotic. There's no way, Governor, I didn't hear that, but people said, it was said, the governor will come out and say that CBN is printing money. And there's no way CBN governor, as a result of that, will come public and say we start deducting money. The chain is as strong as the weakest link. If the states should collapse, the government is gone. So you don't say that because somebody has annoyed you. Now say, okay, it's like you're punishing them. No, we have to manage this country. It belongs to all of us. Nobody is a headmaster and the other one is, people. You're all holding the position in trust for everybody. And so I condemn totally for a governor to come out and say federal government is printing, but that's very irresponsible.
Well, sadly, we would have loved you to expatiate a bit more on that, because some people will say, what if he was just trying to bring to the fore, because he has also said he was trying to bring to the fore what he terms financial recklessness on the part of the federal government. And he fears that if this is not stopped, we could be headed down a path which we do not want to.
I disagree with that.
A path to what some have called to Harare, or a path to Zimbabwe.
You do not demarcate the federal government. The federal government is doing quite a lot, but people are not speaking for them. It's time for people to speak for the president. He's doing quite a lot. It's global challenges, but it's been daily demarcated, and people are not talking. So no governor should come up and say such a thing.
Your Excellency, thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Hopefully you will come again very soon. Well, we have a number of mails. Just before we go, yes, we have been speaking with Dave Umahi, who is the governor of Ebonyi State and the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. We're now going to take some of your mails and tweets. We have this one from Olagunju Oladele, who says, we tolerate too many failures and excuses in Nigeria. Security officers should be treated like medical staff. They're both in charge of protecting our lives. Internally, that's health, and externally, that's security. Would you want a quack doctor for your health care? Big question.
We'll read this one from Bruce. Says, especially for those who know the sponsors of banditry and terror. No invite for questioning, no arrests, absolutely nothing done. This is why the entire DSS needs to be revealed by the National Assembly. Arms are coming into Nigeria and the DSS are unable to stop it. That's worrying.
Exactly. Babs Babala likes sharing a concern, says, I pray for a daily newspaper review without insecurity issue and alarming money distribution.
Well, Uncle Femi says, the case of Dr. Issa Pantami puts the security arms of the government in the spotlight, whether they do their thorough background checks before passing anyone for appointment. Pantami must be investigated, but let him resign first. Well, there you go. That is the show today. Yeah, go ahead, Makwa.
Indeed, it is the show today. Thank you so much for writing in. Thank you for your thoughts as well. I'm Makwa Ogun Yusuf.
Well, I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Please stay safe.
I'm Train Benuso. We'll see you next time.